Hi guys, it's Bree. Welcome to my channel, Just Breezy. And as I always say, if you're not a subscriber, I'd love for you to consider being one. Just be sure you hit that bell for notifications because we upload weekly content. I don't want you to miss out. Now, this is part 3 of our adoption story. November is Adoption Awareness Month, and after giving it some thought, we've decided to share our adoption story, keeping in mind that I want to be genuine and truthful, but also respectful towards my family and our son. So the part that we're at right now is that last year we had our adoption ceremony and we were legally made our son's parents. And anyone that's been through it, I don't know if your experience is the same, but it was really overwhelming because the idea that we were creating sort of a new person, a new identity. He now had our last name. He now had a middle name. It was the same boy he was 30 seconds before we were told we were his parents, but now it was like a new part of his life was going to start, and it was our responsibility. Like, oh. So in like one sense, it was almost parallel to when I gave birth to my daughter, a lot less physically painful, I will say, but that feeling of like being overjoyed that we now had this new family member into our lives. So we celebrated. Our families were just open hearts and arms towards him. It was like, okay, you're part of our family. You are their son, and you're now my nephew or my cousin or whatever the relationship, grandson, whatever it was, it just instantaneously was. But then we had to go home and we had to now live life. You know, we had him, like I said, he was placed with us probably 6 months before legally he was adopted. So we had this like transition, of living together, of knowing the everyday. But now it was sort of like, okay, you got what you worked for and now you got to make it work. And my daughter, I will say that my daughter and our son, they were very close even before then. So the transition into like being cousins to siblings seemed much more seamless than I really thought it would be in my head. Like, it was just like, no, he's my brother and that's it. And she holds on to that role of being his sister and his place as her brother. She cherishes that, and there's no telling her any different because it isn't. He is her brother. And their bond is very typical. They fight daily and they love, and she loves teaching him things, and they get on each other's nerves. It's very much like siblings would be, which although it drives me nuts, I love because I want it to be as authentic as it should be, and it is. I will say that the first few months, they were challenging for many different reasons. We now have a son who's 4 years old. It wasn't like, a baby where we're starting from scratch. He's 4, so he already has sort of like this personality going on, and the things that we needed to keep in mind as far as like his background and the amount of transitions he's already been through. And when I would leave the house, if I was leaving the house and he was home with like his dad and his sister, he would fall apart because he just wanted mommy. And I would try to explain to my husband, like, that's very typical for kids in general, like that they're gonna pick mommy over daddy for a little while, and then all of a sudden daddy's their favorite and mommy isn't. But for him, I fully believe, like from a psychological standpoint, there was this huge transition in his life, and he was clinging to one person. He had this extremely close relationship to my stepmother, which he still has, and to my dad, but they weren't his primary people anymore that he was used to. So now he's sort of like clinging for, well, what's the new norm and stability? And as much as my husband knew that, it still hurt him. It still hurt him that this little boy that's his son and who he's his daddy didn't really connect with him on that level yet. Not quite yet. And I needed to have conversations regularly to say, you have to keep working at it. Don't give up. Don't take that personally. Don't walk away and feel like it's just me. You know, I'm just his parent. He just wants me. He's going to want you, and he's going to need you to continue. And as much as it hurt him, and I could see it hurt him, he didn't give up. And he kept like, nope, I am here and you are going to be okay. And as the months went on, their bond grew like 1,000% more from where it started. Through those months though, I will say, and I speak pretty openly about my struggles with anxiety. And it's funny, even talking about it right now, I start to feel a little bit of that tightness and like, but my anxiety was at an all-time high, because although the end result was what I so desperately wanted, I had a lot of fears that surrounded it. I was feeling guilt that although my daughter wanted a sibling, that now my time was not solely hers. I was feeling guilt that I created a family that, that my husband was struggling with at that point, that I put ourselves in a situation that many families that have multiple children go through, where you have to reevaluate your finances and realize that there's another person to take care of. And I had this fear of people that didn't always make the best decisions for him, just showing up and saying, even though legally you're his mom and you're his dad, I'm taking him. And I had that fear on a daily basis, all day, that I put our family at risk and in jeopardy, and that their safety was not guaranteed because of something I wanted so badly. So on the outside, I really tried to portray this family of four that were just working through the usual stuff. And on the inside, I was really struggling to figure out how to be a mom to two kids that people do all the time. They have multiple children, but now all of a sudden I had like a child, a 4-year-old, and I had to figure it out, and I had to make sure that they were taken care of and they were safe. And I talk about this in other videos, that for me throughout my life, safety of people that I love is a big trigger for me with anxiety. And it gets me like this and worse. But I really struggled with that, and I still do. I absolutely still do, but I try very hard to work through that and put it where it needs to be and not let it overtake my life and my day and my functioning. So the year went on, and we had him in daycare, soccer, birthday parties, all the things that people do with their children. And he's growing and he's flourishing, and he can be a big old pain in the butt at times, like any other kid can. And he's definitely more energetic than I was prepared for, and strong-willed. But he's also really funny, and he's loving. And when I look at him, holy Hannah, dear Lord, I'm sorry. But when I look at him, I just know that no matter how hard the day could be sometimes, that we were meant to be his mommy and daddy. We just were. And whatever feelings that I'm feeling of anxiety or guilt or anything, I always come back to that. I always come back to, he is part of a loving family that will do their very best to make sure that he that he just has a fulfilling life, whatever it is that he decides to do. And we're so fortunate that my dad and my stepmom are a huge part of that, and that my mom and my siblings and Mike's family, and that his uncle, my other stepbrother, huge part of his life. And, my other stepbrother who helped bring him into the world, we still communicate with him. And the thing is, like, Mike and I had decided long ago that we were never going to lie to our son. Now, let me just preface that with, I know there are families out there that have been through adoption, and however you choose to communicate that to your child or not, that's your decision. That's what you've decided works for your family and for your child. But for us, what we decided that would work for him, we hoped worked for him, is that as he got older and as he would ask questions, or as he would show that he was, ready, mature enough, whatever it is, that we would give him information, because we never, ever want him to grow up feeling like we lied to him or that we withheld information from him. We never want him to get to a point where he's wondering. Because here's the thing, we could tell him all the details and he's still going to have questions. He's still going to wonder. He's still going to maybe one day want to meet the woman who gave birth to him. He's still going to want to hear maybe from her, like, why she made the choices she made. But he's never going to be without information from us, because we want him to know that if it gets to that point, holy Lord. But if he gets to the point of just wanting to know more, that he could come to us and say, hey, can you help me? Can you help me figure this out? Or I'm really struggling with A, B, and C. Because I think my biggest fear is that he already has some stacks against him just because of certain things. And I want to make sure that he has the opportunities that he needs in life to be successful, whatever successful means to him as he gets older, whatever's going to make him happy, relationships and job paths or whatever it is. And he knows that we're here and that we love him, and it didn't matter that there's blood or genetics involved or not. But I know for him it might. For him, no matter what kind of life we give him, he still might get to a point where he wants to know more. And that's okay. I feel like I'd want it too. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at right now. We are going on 1 year. We'll soon be celebrating our adoption day. And whew, it's been quite a ride, and it's going to continue to be quite a ride. And for those of you that are considering adoption, have been through adoption, are adopted, I know that your journeys are very different. They are very different. So I don't know if anything I shared helped. Maybe it did. But if you're struggling through it, I would just suggest that you find someone to reach out to share your struggles with, because you're not alone in that. No matter how big or heavy those feelings might feel, you're not alone in that, because everyone is going through something, even if it's not exactly the same, but makes them feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so alone in this, but you're not. So, like I said, November is adoption month. It's, I think the goal is to bring awareness that there are children out there in foster care that may not be the cute and tiny little babies, but more of these children that have already been through things, but still need mommies and daddies, or two mommies and two daddies, or whatever the makeup of your family is. The one mommy that could do it, the one daddy, they just need love. They need support. They need someone to make a video and cry through it. But yeah, that's our story. So I hope you got whatever you needed to get out of it. And I hope you have a good day, whatever you're doing. So thank you guys so much for checking out the channel, for listening to this emotional ride that I shared, and we will chat again soon. Thanks.